Welcome back to Bit About Crypto. This is Dave Hampton, the Robo Recruiter, welcoming a very special guest today, young buck who's making some trends in the NFT world, John Connor with Sparkblocks. John, how are you doing today?
Howdy, David. I am doing great. Super happy to be here. And I know my black background is blurred, but I'm sitting in a park right now where I often do my work. I like to get outside. So I'm having a great day over here in Portland, Oregon, just working away.
Nice. So it's good weather, huh? For you to be able to do that. It's not raining out there, huh?
Yeah, no. Portland has that reputation. It rained a little bit last night, but no, it's a pretty nice day today.
Awesome. So let's jump right into it, John. Tell us about yourself. Tell us like how you came to be in
Mhm.
Portland, or kind of your journey, man. I'm really interested, and I'm sure audiences as well. So let's start there.
Well, that's funny. I kind of didn't expect that one. Why I'm in Portland and my journey, because that's interesting. I just moved back to Portland, but when I first moved here 9 years ago, 10 years ago almost, that was kind of my entry into the tech space. I had chosen to move to Portland to get into tech because it had a reputation of having a very accessible tech community, kind of like you can get coffee with any CEO in town, kind of thing,
Yeah.
without having to chase people down. And it also had a reputation for being very community oriented. And I had come across a lot of really cool grassroots community oriented projects that were going on here that had a very, let's say, strong feeling of decentralization, grassroots decentralization,
Okay.
um, which connects an interesting way to where I am now. Because I first got into tech with a passion around the sharing economy. Do you remember that phrase? That was hot
Sharing
for a couple of
economy.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, like well, I do, but I mean, I don't know if I really delved into it myself.
Well, yeah, I
But
mean, we all did. It's just a branding change, because like Airbnb, Uber,
oh,
Lyft,
okay,
like
gotcha.
all of that TaskRabbit kind of like
Yeah,
the sharing
I
economy
call
turned into
that
a bunch of other
I
things.
call it the platform. Like I call it the middleman platform industry is what I call it because if you think about it,
Yes.
like everyone has developed some kind of platform and developed to be like the middleman, and like everyone just kind of, hey, you got something over here, you need something over here. It's like mingle, right? That kind of thing. That seems to be the way of the world today, the economics, if you ask me.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, the way you framed it, I think is very accurate. And at the end of the day, that's what you're looking at with all these platforms, and we won't have to go too far into that right now. But my thoughts on like Uber and why I don't think it'll be around in the way it is in 5 years because of its economics. But my point was more so that like the ethos around the sharing economy and the energy that was kind of like being drummed up around like Airbnb isn't just this platform, right? It's not just this Silicon Valley startup. It's about community. It's about expanding like your understanding of other cultures. It's about like meeting people and living in homes that you would never have
Yeah,
lived in before.
no,
And
that's a good
it's
point.
about like social transformation and self transformation as much as it is about technological transformation, or at least that was the feeling, right? I don't
Yeah,
think a lot of people feel that way these days. Airbnb is still a really cool platform. I use it for sure, although those fees are insane in certain cities,
yeah,
especially because they have a lot of city taxes and stuff. Because
yeah,
again, it's complicated, right? There's a lot of unintended consequences, and it's not just like all happy go lucky. Here's just a way to participate and make more money, right? These are very complicated systems, and the framing of the sharing economy kind of glazed over that for me. It really enticed me, the idea that there might be these like new platforms that are emerging that allow people to better leverage their experience, their skills, their assets,
mhm.
and participate more meaningfully in the economy and ultimately in their own lives. So that's what got me into tech, and that's actually why I moved to Portland. Was 10 years ago, and I started teaching myself to code. Built my first startup. At first, it was called Skill Sesh, like book a skill session with someone in your community, and then it evolved into help with, like, what do you need help
Okay,
with?
all
So
right,
I worked on that for about 5 years,
I
raised a
like
little bit
that.
of money, built a
Yeah,
team, and you know, um, I made all the mistakes, right? As a first time
yeah,
entrepreneur, I made all the mistakes. And I learned a ton, and we had some success. We got to like 3,000 service providers on the platform. Wasn't able to make the economics work, and ultimately decided I needed to do other things. But first encounter with real entrepreneurship, and it was the full stack roller coaster, right? Like all the ups and downs, speaking at events, and then not having people, sign up after certain things that I expected to do well, and not seeing people do this or that I expected them to do, and having to figure things out, just the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that was kind of my experience in Portland, was like having that onboarding process to tech almost without the pressure of like Silicon Valley, or those types of environments. So, and that's kind of why I'm here again. I just moved back here from Chicago, and just kind of getting away from the big city, getting a little bit closer to nature. I still live in the city here, but there's just a lot more accessibility to the rainforest and just mountains
Yeah.
and the
No, I
ocean.
get that.
So
I mean, that's the preference I had moving from New York City to San Diego. Like, I mean, to me, the
yeah,
city of like the big cities, they kind of like I've always characterized them as like they just exist. They don't care like what you do in them. They just they're it's a grind that you endure. Like the city just lives and
yeah,
breathes on its own and independent of what you do within it, kind of thing. And that wasn't
I feel that.
yeah. Yeah, you just kinda, like the weather, like, I mean, just you get all 4 seasons out there, New York, Chicago, right? And you're just like, "Man," and, like, the beat down you got from, like, late November all the way to, like, mid-April in terms of the winter, I was like, "Man, I'm outta here."
Oh, it's
So,
brutal, man. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Portland's definitely a step up when it comes to winter. It's not with, it gets cold here, but they get like 1 inch of snow. Like
Yeah.
Chicago, I die a little bit every winter
Yeah,
I've
it's
been there,
brutal, man.
and
Like, it's
yeah.
like, enough, you know? Yeah.
So I spend enough time at my laptop, having to keep up with NFT news, blockchain news, and everything like that. So when I'm out doing that, I like to get out, you know.
That's
So
awesome.
that's why I'm out here. I've been working on this company for let's see, about a year and 9 months. Let's say a year and a half. I got to give myself a little bit more credit. About a year and 9 months, and I've
Sparkblock.
been
You're talking about
working.
Sparkblock now, right?
Yeah, Spark Blocks. It's evolved. It's gone through kind of an evolution of brand shifts, but yes, it's Spark Blocks right now. It started off as a Cursed Share. We started off by building a studio to essentially test the concept and interest in dynamic NFTs.
Okay.
This is motivated by the idea, honestly, really straightforward. We're like, you know, all this talk about crypto art, and they're just putting art on the blockchain. And so, it's like everyone's talking about like all this new art and stuff like that. It's like a lot of these things look like stuff that I've seen online for a decade, right? In terms of aesthetics, there's not a whole lot of new
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
happening
that's
originally.
a very good point, and that was kinda my thing, like, we're not, like, putting, like, Da Vinci art on there, but then again, I mean, like, it wasn't like or Van Gogh, but, those artists were starving just even, when they were living, but I understand your point, and that I was gonna ask you about that, and I guess I'm not sorry to cut you off, but I was gonna ask you about talk about that and then really what like the real value of NFTs are because like that I think that's really the if we're gonna bifurcate like the concepts of the two, what's being I don't know permeated, as like the main um as like the main thing, the mainstream stuff versus what actually like what actually excites me is different than what's being permeated, I guess is what I'm saying. So talk about that, man.
So that makes sense. I'll try to I'll connect the story to that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when we started like exploring this space, it was like, just putting art that previously existed on the blockchain. I understand how that's radical, property wise, royalty
Right.
wise, transparency wise. I get that. But there was this kind of like pretend as if like new art was being enabled.
Right.
And we kind of we wanted to take that more serious. And so we looked at it like, if all this art could have existed anyway, how do you create art that could not have existed prior to the blockchain, right? And for us, the answer was the smart contract. Right? The smart
Mhm.
contract itself needs to be a part of the art itself, a part of the story, a part of the creation of the art. And so that's how we got to the concept of dynamic NFTs, right? NFTs that respond to data, that have certain set conditions. Maybe there's like a scarcity, maybe they burn after a certain period. There's a lot of cool mechanisms that you can bake in. Responding to the price of Ethereum was one of the first ones that we
Right.
explored, or just NFTs that even just evolve over time, preset, right, without any additional input into them.
Right.
So you have to wait, or you have to, only on certain events when you see certain things in the NFT, that kind of thing. What could be access to files, or access to events, or just really amazing, unique visuals, or audio, or anything like that, right? Anything that you can pretty much put into a database that you can create digital access to. can be baked into this experience of dynamic NFTs that are more
Okay.
living and changing rather than just static art on the blockchain, right?
Right.
But
Okay.
but to bring that around to your question about value, because when you're in the art space, that's purely subjective, right? So whether it's a
Yeah.
dynamic NFT or a static NFT,
Right.
just
Beauty's in the
the
eye of
J,
the beholder, right? Yeah. That's
right?
yeah.
And yeah, it's in the numbers in the account apparently as it relates to NFTs. The
Right.
numbers
Yeah.
on the exchange. Um,
Yeah. ten
and
thousand. That's the magic number apparently.
yeah,
Like 10,000 of these, right? Get one, right? It's only 10,000. It's
right.
interesting.
And on that point, when it comes to value, so there's the eye of the beholder side of things, right? Where it's just like, okay, I mean, people want certain art, they want to own it, they want to own a piece of what someone else
Right.
created, certain people created. Like, there's narrative behind that, there's meaning behind that. That's an age-old tale, right? But the stuff that's really unique, that's been popping up, where the real crazes are, it has less to do with the art, a lot less to do with the art, and a lot more to do with incentive mechanisms,
Hmm.
community, and gamification, right?
Yeah.
And the connection of all of those is really what makes, well, plus the fact that it's all risk, right? Every NFT buy is a risk play where you're looking for upside.
Right.
You're
Yeah,
making a
yeah,
gamble.
yeah, there's I mean, that I think you buy art, I mean, it's funny because I think about when I think about buying a piece of art, I don't think about what it's gonna be worth in, like, X amount of years. I think about, "Oh, that looks cool," right? And then at some point, you either keep it or you sell it, and you get what you get. Like, I mean, I'm not an art collector, so I'm just this is not a sophisticated viewpoint about art from me, okay? So, forgive me on
Right,
that.
right.
But I mean, I just that's why to me it's been interesting to see it evolve. It's been but yeah, I mean talk about the let's get into that community. You got the utility side and to not to jump in, but as I'm doing, but I think about NFT, what you're talking about, the incentive part of it, gamification. I think about it in terms of like a membership that you're getting, and then what are you getting in return for belonging as a member, right? Or as a member and
Mhm.
as of that community in this case, right? That's
And,
that's
I
right.
think membership is such an important phrase to explore here too, because it's one that we really can easily take for granted. Like, what does it mean to be a member of something? You can join a group on Meetup, you can join a group
Right.
on Facebook, like join a group on LinkedIn. It's really easy to be a member of something, but
Right.
membership takes on really unique meaning with NFTs because again, it goes back to the risk, right? You have skin in the game. You're an
Right.
investor by default, right?
Right.
And that it can create positive incentives. It can be a force for channeling energy, channeling human capital, right? Channeling
Yeah.
effort. But it can also be a force for distortion, right? Because that's
Yeah.
the thing with skin in the game is like, yes, you want the project to succeed, of course, but what does the project succeeding mean to you? As an
Right.
investor, depending on what your goals are, it just might mean selling the NFT for 10x to somebody else, right?
Right.
If that is your definition of success for a project, then there are going to be perverse incentives for sure, right?
Correct.
There's no escaping there is no possible escaping the
It's
perverse
it's
incentives that
always
are
about
inherent.
the person's best self-interest. That's really and
Yeah,
that's I think that's the slippery slope in terms of
exactly.
like the membership, the members who are in it, and the people who created the membership, and what like as a unit of membership or community, like what is the community driving towards? And if each individual is out for themselves, then that really diverts from the actual true identity or goal of the membership in that regard is the way I would think about it. I mean, there's some psychology in there that I'm intrigued by in that as well. Group sync
Yeah,
versus individuality, that kind of thing. So, but yeah.
I think you're spot on, right? And it's like buying into this whole like we're gonna make it. It's like at a certain point, the incentive shifts from we're gonna make it because you think this is a really cool thing and everybody that's participating can succeed to saying we're gonna make it, saying the exact same thing, and it actually being about you getting your bags,
Right.
right? You're getting your
Yeah.
returns, and that's kind of the scary thing in the space, right? Is like people, especially since the big dip in the space, which I think is a huge positive. My heart goes out to
Agreed.
anybody that lost money. I don't want any other
It's
human being to lose their
consolidation. I mean, this
capital.
is natural. It's
But
gotta be. Like, you gotta have some
yeah,
consolidation. You gotta have a little bit of like, I mean, a reality check, if you will, in terms of like it can't
yeah,
just be all moon, pie in the moon sky. It just can't be that way. It's gotta, what goes up must come down kind of thing. So
And as a result, there's a bunch of things that are popping up that I think are really positive. One is just like more reputation based, project exploration. Like people want to know who the founders are. They want to know if they've succeeded in the past. Do they actually have the ability to deliver on any of the things that they're claiming they're going to deliver? Because that was a major issue in the past year, pretty much. A lot of projects raising insane amounts of money. You raise $10 million to make a video game. It turns out none of the people that launched the project know how to make a video game. It's really hard to make video games, it turns out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So like they ran into a lot of that, and so people, I think, in general, are a lot more sensitive to the fundamentals, right? To the teams that are building things, to what their actual plan is. Even if you have a roadmap that's vague, if you have a team that has proven to be able to execute, especially with the flexibility of a vague roadmap, then that vague roadmap doesn't impact you the same way, right? So the authenticity, knowing the team, knowing kind of where ground is in your relationship to these projects is something that has become a lot more essential.
yeah,
And another thing I'll add there, one of the things that we're focusing on is more flexibility with launching these projects because, for most of the last past year, most of the craze, it's like you launch a project and it either like makes it or doesn't make it, right? A couple of
right,
projects did okay, but it's like if your project is dead day one and you launch a 10K project, it's going to be really hard from there, right? If it doesn't
yeah,
sell well, like day one, day two, day three, like a weekend, but you could have put so much effort into it. Beautiful art, right? A really strong community, but because there's these models that kind of favor the speculation, the fast rush, and everything like that, again, it
yeah.
creates
The
a
hype.
disincentive, right? Against like being more honest and pragmatic. But part of that also is the tools, right? And that's really where we come into play. I'll try to be
Okay.
specific here. So instead of dropping a collection of, let's say, 10,000 just like day one, or having
Right.
some like secret pre-sale allocation that goes to like the founders of a collection,
Yeah.
we're setting up infrastructure that allows any creator or marketer, brand, whatever, any individual that knows how to use software to set up their own sales phases so that you
Okay.
can control which NFTs in a collection, like by their property, let's say. You can create NFTs with a specific property, like for
Oh,
phase one, right?
so you're almost creating like kind of like a built-in like auction like timing aspect, if you will. Like, I mean, I don't know if that's the right phrasing, but the way I think about it is like, okay, let's just say you want like these are valued like you have an auction, you kind of start off with one item that's like less than the others. There are a collection there maybe there are a collection of items, but inherently some are more valuable than others, so you start off with the phases accordingly in the auction per se. Sorry if is that accurate, or is that like a good way to
That's
think
it's
about it?
in the right direction. Yeah. So
Okay.
we're not really talking about an auction mechanism in most of these sales. Like if you minted like a Bored Ape, right? It wasn't an auction; it was a randomized mint, right? So
Okay.
these big collections, they usually depend on randomized mints. Um, and you can think of it maybe as like, let's say you want to launch a collection, but you want to like test the waters first, right? And you could say, all right, we're going to do a pre-sale for the first 100 people, and it's going to cost this much, right? And then you can have like it pre-set up so that like there are like 5 sales phases where it increases in price, and maybe in the first 3 sales phases you have a higher probability of getting rare ones, right?
Oh,
Because
gotcha.
you can
Okay.
set in your individual sales phases, right? You can set the attributes like more rare ones in the first phase, in the second phase, and then more common ones in the third phase and the fourth phase. So it just gives you a lot more granular control over how you want to roll out a collection, who you roll it out to, and
Yeah.
it gives the individual control without having to hire a dev team every time you want to make a change like this, right? Because right now, if you go to OpenSea, you don't have any control over these things. You just you release a collection and that's kind of
Yeah,
that.
you
You,
just yeah,
you
you let
know.
it be, yeah. I mean, that at least that's what I've heard. I haven't I don't have any collections on OpenSea, so but that yeah, that makes sense to me. So,
Yeah. So I brought that up as an example of, like I had mentioned, with the changing kind of economics of NFT projects and the shift in how people are approaching them, having tools that allow a creator to really control their sales process and control like how they roll this out, how they test things, how they verify that people are interested. We believe that's going to be really critical to getting to kind of like the next stage of the NFT environment. So it's not just these
yeah,
big
you're
moonshot projects either failing or blowing up.
in a way, you're kind of like adding like some analytics and some what's the right word? Like for lack of a better word, process of like here's the thing about artists, right? They know how to create art, But when it comes to the business
Mhm.
side, they're really lacking. They're like, I don't know, I just made it. It's not like I'm trying to sell it for $1 million. I'm just trying to like make whatever I make. But what you're adding is an element where like, hey, you can give them everyone knows how to swing a hammer. So it's like, all right, here you go. Here's a hammer. Here's a special kind of hammer to help you modify whatever you need, that kind of thing. Like that's what I'm gathering from what you're providing here, like tools,
Mhm.
analytics to help understand how the process of the business part of it to get something back from your work per se, as an
Yeah,
artist.
absolutely. Like, you might think of it as like, email marketing was really hard for your average person until MailChimp came about. And all of a sudden, they have these like really easy ways to like capture emails and
Yes.
send
Yeah.
follow-ups,
Exactly.
and then they added more automations, and now it's a
Right.
whole like business automation
The
platform,
whole
right? But it
business.
started
Yeah.
off with
The
just
whole
emails,
business. That'll do that. Yeah. Now it's like,
and
yeah.
it onboarded millions of businesses to programmatic email, right? That's how I got
Right.
into programmatic email, just as a startup founder 10 years ago, just like hacking around with MailChimp.
Yeah.
As it grew, I grew. And it's a good example of the types of tools that we're providing, because it allows less technical people ultimately to have more power,
Yeah.
and have more understanding. And not just like understanding in like, you know, this is what you should do business wise, but the different pieces that are involved, right? How to think about these things, to think in terms of different phases, sales phases, and
Yeah.
adjusting, your whitelist and access
Yeah.
lists, pre-sale
That
lists for
makes
different
sense.
phases, and including things like upgradability as well, right? So we're building out an entire dashboard that has the functionality we just described. We're also creating the capability to upgrade NFTs at the NFT level, so you can update the individual NFTs as long as the metadata isn't locked, or updating the contract itself, right? So, for example, there's a lot of different new specifications that are coming out. One is being discussed really heavily right now that allows for the reversal of transactions on Ethereum. I don't know if you've heard about this one.
No, I haven't, but
Um,
that doesn't sound too. I don't really like that idea. That's the whole
well,
defeats the whole purpose, right? Of having like it to me, it defeats the whole purpose. I mean, first of all, like I mean, politics aside, I'll just say this. I mean, Ethereum is centralized, and the problem with I have with Ethereum is that it's like the antithesis of what this all like the industry came about from. Like, if you ask me, I mean, I think that's. I mean, I think when I think of Bitcoin as like the standard. Yes, I know the transactions are super slow, but I think the philosophy behind Bitcoin is really what has intrigued me, is what got me into it.
mhm.
Ethereum is, I mean, Vitalik, he's ballooned into this you know, billionaire oligarch, if you will, kind of thing. So
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a fanboy by any stretch of the imagination, but I would say I'm a little bit lenient on what they're doing with Ethereum. I've been following it pretty closely, and yeah, I mean, it's the way that these upgrades to the system are governed. Um, like Vitalik doesn't have final say on these things, right? It's definitely
right,
like an organization of like he has a lot of influence for sure.
right, right.
Um, but anyway, so there's a lot that we can explore there without going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, no,
Um,
I know I said a lot. I
yeah,
mean,
no,
I
it's
didn't
fine.
actually expect to say all that, but I mean, I just
No, it's great.
I just I don't know. I guess I'm on
No,
the
I
fence
appreciate it. Got to
about
keep it
Ethereum.
balanced. I like it. There's a lot of fanboyism in this space. There's a lot of utopianism, and I think it's good to throw a wrench in that more than every once in a while. Again, if we had more time, I would want to engage that more directly. But the point that I was just trying to make here is, the specification, it has its specific uses, right? It's not for
Yeah,
everything, but you can implement it like on a specific NFT smart contract for certain types of deals, let's say, right? But it's just an example of how like if standards like this become more standard in smart contracts and your smart contract can't be upgraded to support it, then it's outdated with every new release, right?
yeah,
That's just one example. Another example I could give is like a royalty across a platform royalty standard, right? Once one gets adopted universally, if your contract doesn't have it, then your contract is kind of
yeah. No,
obsolete in a
I
weird
can
way,
see
right?
the use case scenario. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I think it just becomes a slippery slope in terms of the reversal, because I think that's I don't know. Then I mean, to me, that's you're treading on the idea of absolute power corrupts absolutely kind of thing. And I think that's um, I don't know. I just I guess it's one of the reasons why I would never want to become president, because I don't know, man. I just shy away from that kind of stuff in that regard. But
Oh
I
no,
get
I hear you. It's well, this again, not to go too deep into it, but this implementation that's being proposed, it doesn't allow for centralized intermediaries. It's on the contract,
Okay.
and it's
All right.
just
All right.
between the two people engaged in it. And it's specifically designed to like mitigate like theft, right? So let's say you have your keys still, right? But someone else also has your keys. If you have your keys still and someone else has them, they can steal your stuff and there's nothing you can do about it,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
through
No,
this, if
that'd
you
be
have your own
yeah.
keys, you could reverse it, right? So they get, if it's a transaction, then they just get what they paid back, right? And it's something going into their transaction. But again, without going too deep into that, my point there was just that it's an example of different functionality that you can add to a smart contract. And our dashboard,
No, that would be
um,
I think that'd be conducive. Yeah, I think that'd be I mean, yeah, and to that end, I mean, I think it's a good idea in that regard. Like to have it available, right? I think that'd
right.
be cool. So,
Yeah.
all right.
That and like, royalties that are baked in,
Yeah.
royalty splitters. These are all examples of upgrades to smart contracts that are going to be available through our platform, right? So even
Yeah,
things that aren't
and
released
over
yet.
time, I mean, things change. Like if like this is why there's like this is why I think NFTs are valuable for like like trust. Like right now that we have people who set up estate planning and have trust available. Like a lot of the paperwork that goes into that. Imagine if you just had like a smart contract that could oversee that, right? And then the reversal part would come in terms of like, hey, if someone died that you had someone as directive, right? Then now you have to be able to reverse that in terms of augmented it or revising it per se. That would be where that part would have to be coming into play. So that'd be cool. That'd be good. Um, so Sparkblocks is essentially doing like they're providing the tools to help the business side. It's kind of the same way that Mailchimp came along with like mass emailing kind of thing and understanding the tools that analytics that come behind that as well, and really helping make evolve it, like make it better kind of thing in that regard. And so tell me right now, where are you, tell me about the status right now,
Mhm.
and then where you guys see yourself in the next year, 2 years kind of thing in terms of augmenting.
Yeah, so we've been launching projects through our architecture for the past year almost, as we've been
Okay.
building things out incrementally. And we've had some team changes, and the crypto markets going up and down have
Yeah.
certainly slowed things down at certain periods. But right now, we consider ourselves to be in beta, and we're about a month away from having a public product that people are going to be able to plug their smart contracts into and start to leverage our admin. And depending on their
Awesome.
smart contract, like if they use ours, you have more control, right? Depending on what smart contract you have that you plug into our admin, it'll have different available functionality, right? So the functions in your smart contract that our admin can recognize, you'll have an interface for running them, right? So that's what's going to be available in a month. And the other thing that's really key that we haven't really talked about is we focus on embeds. So creating a minting embed, right, that you could just drop into your website. So if you're a marketer, if you're a musician, whatever, you don't want to send people to an external page. You want to like have things on your website, right? You want to have control over things.
Yeah.
You want to have the analytics on your site, everything like that. You don't want to be sending traffic to somebody else's site like OpenSea, right? So we provide an NFT minting embed so that when you set up your collection and someone comes to claim an NFT, right? It could be a promo, they can claim it for free. They can buy the NFTs, whatever. We have this very nice embed that's as simple as embedding a YouTube video, right? Just copying an iframe, dropping it to your site. It's responsive and it has a lot of nice functionality that we're also going to be extending, such as adding a MailChimp form, right?
Oh,
That's one of the
nice.
first things that's on a roadmap there. So,
Awesome.
for example, if you're an artist on OpenSea and you're selling NFTs, OpenSea has your buyer's email address probably, right? If they actually created an account,
Yeah.
they just connected a wallet, they don't. But if they created an account, OpenSea has their private info. And as the artist, the seller, you don't have their info. You don't have any of your customers' information other than their wallet, right? So that's one of the things our minting embed is working on changing. As we add more integrations, we empower the creator themselves or the business to capture that user information and own the relationship as well.
That's cool. That's awesome. All right. So how do people get in contact with you and your team, John? Like what do they got to do?
Yeah, you can always find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and a bunch of other places, but sparkblocks.com, and blocks is spelled like Roblox, BLOX. Sparkblocks.com. Right now, as we're still in beta, we're launching projects. So we're taking applications from collaborators. If people are interested in launching an NFT project, wanted to talk about dynamic NFTs or any other technology that we're building, they can hit us up to schedule a meeting with myself or someone else on my team, and we can walk them through what collaboration would look like. We're certainly looking for collaborators that are looking to push the boundaries of what can be done with NFTs, what's been done with NFTs. That's kind of our priority. But we also support basic projects as well, right? Projects that are just trying to set up, their minting and have something nice on their website. So we really support the gamut, but definitely people that are interested in, pushing the technology and doing something really unique. Those are the conversations that excite us the most right now.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, John, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate your time today and the enlightenment for in today's conversation about what you guys are doing in NFTs and dynamic NFTs in particular. So really appreciate it. On behalf of Bit About Crypto, this is Dave Hampton, the Robo Recruiter. Eternally grateful. John, thank you again so much.
Yep. Thank you so much, David. Great talking to you. And obviously, we have a million other things to talk about, as this conversation showed, just scratching the surface. So,
and we'll
look forward to
definitely have
continuing
you. I will definitely have you back at that right time, man. When everything is when you're launching again, I'd be happy and excited to have you back again, John. So thank you.
Awesome. Cool.
All right.
Talk more soon.
Okay.